welcome to IK Garlic Shop, where we sell all kinds of kitchen accessories, home appliances, gas accessories, and electronics of all kinds. Today is another Friday with us when we get to teach you how to use some of the wonderful items you get from us, so that when you get those items, you can get to enjoy them. So today here, we'll be teaching you on how to use your blender. Some of us have coconut head when it comes to using blender. There is nothing you say that they will hear. If you're telling them from this ear, it's entering here and it's going out from here. So, but today here, I will impact us, I will educate us on how to use blender, so that when you get a blender from, if it's us or any other vendor that sells blender, you can get to use that blender and enjoy it very well. Now, I have an industrial blender here. This is an industrial blender, but this is not fully, you can't say this is a full industrial. This is just like an industrial home use blender. Not all those powerful, very industrial blender that they're selling 500,000, 600,000. This one is just a very simple home use blender, but it's industrial. Now this one is another home use blender. You know, some of us, when you keep teaching them how to use blender, it's as if what you're teaching them is not entering their head. It's entering from one part and going from another part. So I'll try and educate you, and I hope you learn, so that when you get blender from us, you get to enjoy it, and you won't say that what we gave to you did not last. So I'll try my possible best to make sure you get to understand it. Okay, let me just use this one to explain why we'll do other things. Okay, it's just this cord that is working. Now, in using a blender, there is something you must do first, which is what? Going through the manual that is inside that blender. That's the first thing you do. When you get a blender newly, like when you bought a new blender now, like let me say I bought this blender from a shop or wherever I get it from, there's a manual inside that blender. Go through the manual. There are some things that you need to know, like limitations. There are some things that you need to know before start using it. There are some things that when you finish, when you're through reading it, it will help you to know how to use that blender. But some people, they don't read the manual. When they just get a blender, they just leave it. So go through the manual. That's the first thing you do. Then second thing, when you want to blend, any food item you want to blend, try to reduce the food into smaller particles. Reducing that food into smaller particles will help. It will help the motor, the coil. There's a motor inside here. This is where the motor is. It will help the motor. When you reduce the food particles or the food item you want to blend, it will help reduce the stress you're putting on that motor. Then another thing too, when you want to blend, start at low speed. Start at low speed. There are some people, when they want to blend, the first thing they just do, they just go to 3 or they just increase it. So when you want to blend, you start at low speed. There's a low speed. All blender has low speed. Like this one here, you see that there's on here, and you can increase it from this place. So when you're blending, you start at low speed. The advantage of starting at low speed is it will first start reducing those food items into smaller particles gradually. Before not increasing it, and then it now. But when you just immediately you put it at the high, it stress the motor, and it also affects the blade. Then another thing too, avoid overfilling. Every blender has the level and the point at which you're supposed to put an item inside. Like this blender, you see that they are writing for you here. They're telling you this is the maximum point you're supposed to fill up an item. But if you ask me, I will tell you when you want to fill up an item in a blender, don't fill it so much. You can drop it here. Because if you fill it here, if it's an item like tomato that you want to blend and you fill it up here, there's every tendency that it will blend and go out and be pouring on the body, and sometimes it can enter into the engine and spoil something. So you don't overfill it. Then another thing too, you need to take into caution. After blending, let me say you're done blending, you want to wash it. Put in detergent. Either you use detergent or you use the morning fresh you use to wash your dishes. Put it inside the blender cup, add water to it, and then put it on slow. You don't need to blend it for too high. Now, doing this will help to remove any food particle that is still remaining inside there. That's when you want to wash it and store back the blender. Doing this will remove any particle whatsoever that's still remaining inside the blender. You might be trying to wash it. It won't go out very well. But with this pattern, it's going to remove whatever food particle that is still remaining. And when you want to store it, also make sure that you store it when it is dry. Make sure that the items you are done washing is very dry before storing it. And then finally, when blending with your blender, don't blend continuously. Don't blend continuously. This is one major thing that spoils all your blender. Some of the blenders they do sell, some of the home use blenders, as you're supposed to use them for a while and stop. Use them for a while and stop. Use them for a while and stop. You're not supposed to use them continuously. But because you have coconut head, when we finish saying it, you will do that thing that you want to do. So when you want to use a blender like this, for example, as you're blending, you blend for a while and you stop. You blend for a while and you stop. Not blending continuously. You blend. When you go through your manual, you see how many minutes. That's why it's good you go through the manual that is inside your blender. You will see how many minutes you're supposed to blend and then stop. How many minutes you're supposed to blend and stop. So they will tell you how long you can go. But when you don't read the manual, how can you get this information? You just come, you buy a blender, next thing you're using it. And when one thing happens, you come back to your blender, you tell them, the blender you sold to me did not last. Now I'm teaching you better listening. This is how you use it. So let me say, you want to blend something now that is hard. When you bring a frozen fruit from inside the fridge, you want to blend it. You don't immediately you start pressing 1 and 2. No. There's a pause button in most blenders. Like in the like of this industrial blender now, you see where the pause button is. This is the pause button. The pause button is the pressure, the speed at which is blending is high. So that pause button will crush the food item. It will crush it into small particles, and at the same time, it will affect the blade because the blade can become blunt. Like the sharpness of that blade can as well reduce. Look at this one now. This binatone. You see where the pause button is. This pause button is the speed that comes out from it is more higher. So you can use it to blend like frozen fruits, ice block, all those things. You can use it to blend it at not when you want to blend that you start using 1, 2. No. You understand? So when you do all these little things I'm teaching you, there is no way you won't enjoy your blender. Take it from Ike Gali. Thank you. That's all for today. See you next Friday.